Good morning and I get an Erev Shabbos Kodesh and I get Chodesh. Today is Friday, Erev Shabbos Kodesh, Pashta Ziyah Metzoyre. Aleph Deresh Chodesh Ir Lamed Nissen Tufshim Pai Vuv on Edge. My name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm your host on Edge. A lot to unpack here today, right? Besides the date.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours. Powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.
Hello all, my name is Gershy Schwarcz and I'm your host on Edge today. Hayom Chamisha Usa Yom Shahaim Shnai Shavias V'Yom Echad Loim, just in case you forgot. Now, stay tuned for the Shmis with Rabbi Gershy Markowitz. The secret is out from a Chabad insider. A Shmis, a very nice Shmis. I had it in front of an audience, and we filmed it, and it was very nice. And we're going to post it by Shem's work this Motzei Shabbos Sunday. Now, Trump says the Strait of Hormuz is open, or Iran says it's closed. It's open, but it's closed. Not sure. Anyway. Point is, overnight, the 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon went into effect. And today, for the first time since the war began on Shabbos Zucher, the Israeli military has lifted all wartime rules across the whole country. Schools are back open. Workplaces are open. People can gather again. Life in Israel is starting to go back to normal, Baruch Hashem. But the ceasefire started with bloodiness. Now, just minutes before the ceasefire was supposed to start at midnight last night, Israeli warplanes hit the southern Lebanese city of Tyre. 13 people were killed, 35 more were hurt, 15 people are still missing under the rubble. 6 apartment buildings were completely demolished. Now, and hours before that, Hezbollah, the Iran-backed terror group, obviously fired missiles into northern of Israel. In Carmiel, a 25-year-old Yid and a 17-year-old girl were both badly injured by pieces of shrapnel, metal from a missile, right? In Nahariya, a man in his 40s was also injured. Once the ceasefire began, the skies over Beirut lit up with fireworks and celebration gunfire by Hezbollah terrorists and their mothers, yes, their old mothers, all holding big rifles, shooting it up to the sky. As displaced Lebanese families started making their way back to the south this morning to see what is left of their home. Now, today something new happened. President Trump posted that Israel is now, quote, prohibited from bombing the Lebanon. But reports say an Israeli drone still hit a motorcycle in the southern Lebanon this morning. After the ceasefire, one terrorist was killed. The Lebanese army also says Israeli forces kept firing at several villages in the south even after the ceasefire started. French President Emmanuel Macron said this morning that he is worried that the ceasefire is already being broken. And listen to this. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told his ministers that Israel agreed to the ceasefire only because President Trump personally asked him to. Now, he did not even put it to a vote. He didn't ask his advisors. He didn't mention it to them. Reports say his top group of ministers found out about it from the mainstream media, from the news. Israeli troops, just to add one very important thing, that he did say that he has a plan for Hezbollah. His plan has not been stopped. He's agreed to the ceasefire, but he's not going to elaborate any further. Israeli troops are not leaving Lebanon. They're staying inside an empty 10-kilometer strip, a buffer zone, along the border from the river to the sea. I'm checking. From the sea all the way to Mount Hermon. The Israeli military is telling people in Lebanon not to cross back into that area, the Litani River area, like we reported many times. President Trump says the war with Iran is very close to ending. Well, he's hopeful, at least. Trump spoke to reporters outside the White House, on Thursday before flying to Las Vegas, and he said Iran has agreed to give up its plans for nuclear weapons for over 20 years. Listen to this.
A nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. Iran's agreed to that, and they've agreed to it very powerfully. They've agreed to give us back the nuclear dust that's way underground because of the attack we made with the B-2 bombers. So we have a lot of agreement with Iran, and I think something's going to happen very fast.
So he's hopeful. So should we, right? Now, he says they agreed to hand over the supply of nuclear material, what Trump calls, quote, the nuclear dust. In other words, Trump says that the next round of talks will likely happen this weekend in Pakistan. And if the deal gets signed in Pakistan, in the capital of Pakistan, which is Islamabad, he might travel there himself to sign it, he says. Pakistan's Army Chief, Field Marshal Asmin Munir, we reported him twice already on this show, is the go-between, the middleman between Washington and Tehran. Now, the current pause in fighting between the United States and Iran rounds out next week on April 22nd. Trump says if there is no deal by then, the fighting starts yet again. Now, Iran wants nuclear dust deal, but Trump wants a nuclear done deal. Strait of Hormuz is open or closed or open, but Americans are still blocking Iran with the official blockade. Iran officially announced today that the Strait of Hormuz is fully open again. According to some reports, Iran had been blocking it for weeks during the war with mines and with other dangers, shooting at ships and stuff, attacking ships passing through. So obviously that means they closed it. President Trump posted on Truth Social today thanking Iran directly. He wrote in his quotes, Iran just announced that the Strait of Iran, he says, the Strait of Iran is fully open and ready for full passage. Thank you. But in a second post, Trump made something very clear. The American Navy is not moving. Trump wrote, in all capital letters, the naval blockade will remain in full force and effect as it pertains to Iran. Only, until such time as our transaction with Iran is 100% complete. Full stop. Trump added that the peace deal should move very quickly because of most of his points are already worked out. Right now, the American military still has more than 10,000 troops, over 100 aircrafts and 12 warships blocking Iran's coast by sea. So far, 13 ships trying to reach Iranian ports have been turned back. But as I said, Iran is telling a completely different story this morning than President Trump. Reports say that Iran still thinks the Strait of Hormuz is not freely open at all. Even though Iran says it is. You know, they turned back a few ships. A source close to Iranian official, Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf, says Iran is forcing the US to accept 3 strict rules for reopening the water. Number 1, all traffic must go through Iranian waters near Larak Island, which locks in Iran's control, basically. Number 1, only commercial ships can pass. Iran gets to decide who is allowed through. Enemy ships are obviously banned. An enemy means Israel or America or someone like them. And everyone has to pay a security toll. We spoke about the security toll. It's close to $2 million per ship. Number 3, Iran's Revolutionary Guard will run the whole show with full military oversight over all movement there. This is all happening while Oman tries to negotiate smooth transit in the Strait and while ships continue to sail from Iranian ports despite the US blockade. Meanwhile, President Trump is pushing back against the media's coverage of the standoff. He posted, the failing New York Times, fake news CNN and others just don't know what to do. They are desperately looking for a reason to criticize President Donald J. Trump on the Iran situation, but just can't find it. Nikita, why don't they just say, at the right time, job well done, big caps, Mr. President, big caps, and start to gain back their credibility, question mark. Okay, here is a story that was not fully reported until this week. On April 7th, during Pesach, American and Israeli bombs hit central Tehran. One of the buildings destroyed was the Rafi Nia Shul. It's called Rafi Nia Shul. At the time, Iran told the world that the Sifrei Torah were buried under the rubble. That's what they told the world. But this week, new information came out of Iranian Jewish community. The Sifrei Torah Baruch Hashem found. They came out completely whole, not damaged. Other Sforim were destroyed, obviously, but the Sifrei Torah survived. The Israeli military says the strikes was actually aimed at top Iranian commanders nearby, and the shul was hit by accident, they say. Now, about 8,000 Yidden still live in Iran today. They are under heavy pressure from the Iranian government, obviously, to speak out against the Jews in Israel. Against the Jews who live in Israel. This past Thursday, the community held a Tehillim gathering at the Yusuf Abad Shul in Tehran in memory of Iranians killed in the war. I think in that shul, my friend Avrum Schwartz traveled there right before the war, the first war, the 12-day war. Right before that war, he traveled there and he davened there Rosh Chodesh. On Rosh Chodesh Taka, he davened there with them, had a minyan. There was a picture of them before. Here, this one. Anyway, so they celebrated, and they had a big picture of Khamenei behind him, which they always have to do because of the pressure from the Iranian regime. As you can imagine, these 8,000 Jews don't live it easy, I must say. The Israeli Navy just revealed what it was doing during the war for years. This was kept completely secret, obviously. Israeli submarines traveled farther than they have gone before. Submarines were sent out to 3 different places at the same time, thousands of kilometers apart. The military announced all of this yesterday at an event where Israel's new Navy chief officially started his job. Israel's top secret military diving team, known as the Shayetet 13, also carried out secret trips to places they had never been before. One trip sent 5 divers thousands of kilometers from Israel, with no backup and no way to bring them back home if something went Khalila wrong. The Navy also said it helped kill Iran's Navy commander Ali Reza we called him Tangerine the other time. Remember, that's how they killed him, obviously, because they went to the Strait. And it gave information that helped bomb 95 targets inside Iran. We'll talk about the targets and all what they achieved at the end, because they did give out the Israelis gave out today a profit and loss sheet due to tax season of the profits and the losses in Iran. Anyway, in London, special police who handle terror threats locked down Kensington. Terror police. Kensington Garden yesterday near the Israeli embassy in England. Suspicious objects were found in the park. Police in protective gear were sent in the gardens and the whole area around them were closed off to the public, obviously. Nobody knows exactly what they found or who they found. Now, they do know this. An Iranian-linked terror group called Ashab al-Yamin, the guys responsible for many, many terror attacks, we'll talk about it soon, posted a video online. The group claims they attacked the embassy with drones carrying chemicals. Dangerous chemicals that can cause cancer. London police say the embassy itself was not attacked. They are checking if the video is real and if the objects in the park are connected to it. Today with AI, who knows? The same terror group also claimed responsibility for fire attacks on schools in Liège, London and Antwerp. For those who remember the ambulances. European police believe the group is not what they say they are. They believe the attacks are actually being ordered by the Iranian government themselves, which is hiring local street gangs and criminals to do their dirty work. On Thursday, British police charged 3 UK citizens over a separate fire attack on Iran International, a Persian television station in London that criticizes the Iranian regime. The 3 are facing charges of setting a fire meant to kill. Iran hires the Strait and London finds the receipts. After 44 years, a killer faces a judge. Terrorist. There is news today in a terror case that is going back 44 years. The Palestinian Authority, PA, handed over a top terrorist to France. His name is Hicham Harb. He is 70 years old today. Now, Harb is one of the terrorists who attacked the Joe Goldenberg restaurant in Paris. Joe Goldberg restaurant in Paris in 1982. The restaurant was in the Marias, the Jewish neighborhood of Paris. Terrorists threw a grenade into the restaurant, and then they ran inside and shot machine guns at the people eating there. 6 Yidden, Hashem Yinkum Doma, were killed, and 22 more were hurt. It was the worst anti-Semitic attack in the French history since the Holocaust. The Palestinian Authority, obviously, had been holding Harb, I think his name is Harb, since September. Yesterday they finally put him on a plane to France and he will be now facing a judge and stand trial. The United States military is pulling all of its troops out of Syria. Listen to this. American forces are completely emptying all of their military bases in the country. As background, the United States has kept roughly 900 troops at several bases in eastern Syria for years now. They were originally sent there to stop the ISIS terror group and to block Iranian weapons from moving through the area. Now those bases are being closed. Is that part of the Iranian deal? You never know. And the soldiers are leaving. The Republican-led House of Representatives narrowly defeated a Democratic push to force American troops out of the Middle East. The vote would have made the president pull the soldiers out. The final count was 214 to 213. This was the third time Democrats tried to pass a vote like this and failed. House Democrats say they will keep bringing new votes every single day. The House is in session now, so that every day the House is in session, so that, I didn't puncture, you see, like Trump a little bit, so that every Republican has to go on the record. Now, Senator Susan Collins warned that when the war hits the 60-day mark, American laws says Congress has to officially vote to approve it. On Thursday night, we're less than 60 days, obviously, or maybe just about. Now, on Thursday night, 47 days, he said, Trump. 47th president said there's 47-day war against the 47-year of brutality in Iran. On Thursday night, Democratic Representative Annalila Mejia won a special election for New Jersey House seat. She defeated Republican Joe Hathaway in the 11th district to replace Mickey Sherrill, who is now the New Jersey governor. Whatever her name is a far-left activist backed by Bernie Sanders and AOC. During the race, Hathaway called her anti-Semitic for accusing Israel of genocide in Gaza, leaving the local Jewish community divided. Her victory makes the Republican majority in the House even smaller. The temporary head of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, summer's coming now, so you got to get ready for ICE, I'm joking, is quitting. Todd Lyons, turned his resignation on Thursday to Homeland Security Secretary, the new one, Markwayne Mullin. Lyons led ICE during President Trump's work to send illegal immigrants out of the country over the past year. He is leaving on May 31st to take a job in a private sector. No replacement has yet been named. Earlier that same day, Lyons answered questions in front of lawmakers about ICE's budget and about following the court orders. Trump, recent my shmiss with Gershy Markowitz is actually about this Tucker Carlson situation. Trump attacked Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owen, and also Joe Kent. Listen to this. Overnight, President Trump went on a long Truth Social attack Thursday night. This time, turning his attention back to some of the biggest names in the conservative media, who turned, obviously, anti-Semitic. Trump wrote about Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, and Candace Owens, 3 people who used to be major Trump supporters but have all turned on him over the Iran war. Trump wrote that they are, quote, dying fast, and called them, quote, fake MAGA. The Post also went after Joe Kent, the man who, until last month, was Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center. Kent quit because he did not agree with Iran's war. Now, Trump called Kent a sleazebag and a loser, and ended the Post with a line, quote, no more Mr. Nice Guy. Trump wrote, quote, who's dumber, Tucker Carlson or Joe Kent? It's very interesting. Now, earlier in the same post, Trump also went after Fox News host Jessica Tarlov, calling her boring and telling Fox to get her off the air. Now, the split. Don't forget, Tucker Carlson also used to be a Fox News representative. The split between Trump and the old Trump commentary world keeps getting deeper. Unbelievable. They used to love him. The war is still hurting the world economy. Oil, you see, all those who, talk bad about Jews end up going downhill. That's what you see. It's obvious. Now, oil prices are still above $115 a barrel, even with Iran now opening the Strait of Hormuz. It will take time for the shipping to go back to normal, some people say. The International Monetary Fund, that is the world's top money watchdog, lowered its prediction. Doesn't have hope. Doesn't learn for the whole world economy this week. They warned that if the war goes on for a long time, it could push the world into a recession, a time when money gets tight everywhere. Gasoline supplies in California have dropped to the lowest they have ever been. Meanwhile, Indian oil companies are getting around the American law that basically blocks buying Iranian oil, the sanctions, by paying for it in Chinese money instead of dollars. Leaders from 40 countries held online meetings today, led by Britain and France, to plan to safely protect the Strait of Hormuz. The United States wasn't invited, obviously. IMF says recession. Wall Street is obviously hopeful and says record high. Pick your chart. I would pick the positive. Why not? Speaking of positive, the search in positive. I didn't mean to transition like this into this because it's actually not so positive news. The search in Netanya is continuing today in its 8th day for Avram Yeshaya Spiegel, the one who is still lost at sea, the 17-year-old Shiva Bucher from Ramat Shlomo. Drivers, drones, and jet ski crews are still working hard between the rocks and the deep waters of the Tanza beach, in Netanya, where they believe he may be trapped. Zaka volunteers kept searching the shoreline through the night. Earlier this week, his older brother, Yisroel Spiegel, was found, and he was laid nifta 5 days later at the hospital in Netanya after being pulled out from the water. The Levaya was held yesterday, 2 days ago, in Yerushalayim with thousands in attendance. Their father, Hagun Harav Shlomo Spiegel, the Rosh Chabira in Bais Yisrael, spoke through tears at the Levaya Nebuch, and he said, 3 partners are in a person, Shlosh Shit from Be'udam. Father, the mother, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a gift, how does he take it back without asking us? The answer is, it wasn't a gift. It was a deposit. The owner of the deposit takes back the deposit. Rav Spiegel sent a letter to his Talmidim asking them to be careful with their speech during these days in Sfira. Same time that we all know Rabbi Akiva's Talmidim. Now he asked the tzibur to take extra care in bein udam lechaveiroi, to pause before saying a sharp word to someone, to guard their tongues from Lashon Haras. You hear all the tweets and posts and talking from the big people out there. Unlike them, you guard your tongue. Klal Yisrael is asked to continue being mispal Avram Yeshaya ben Sheshana. We never give up either. Never ever give up. 4 American astronauts made it back to Earth safely. We spoke about this, but it's interesting to hear. The NASA Artemis 2 mission traveled 250,000 miles to the moon and back. This was the very first time humans went to the moon since 1972. The crew was Commander Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, and Christiana Koch, and Canadian astronaut Jeremy Hansen. During the trip, Commander Weissman named a crater on the moon the Carroll Crater in memory of his late wife. The crew said the return to Earth was brutal, was rough. Their heat shield was badly burned. They said telling the full story of what actually happened and what they saw could fill a whole entire series. All right. let's continue the news where we're up to. So, the Iranian regime just lost about 30 of its top leaders, including their supreme leader, Khamenei. Israel actually used a brand new AI platform to track them down. Since it's tax season, well, today, you could say Israel just put out their latest profit and loss statement. Okay. That means, what I really mean is that Israel just showed off their massive wins in the war, which just happens to be Iran's massive losses. Now, let me read you the numbers. The Israeli military calls, well, the whole war, Operation Roar of the Lion. Now, since it started on February 28th, which is Shabbos Zucha, Israel hit Iran with around 10,800 attacks in total. This includes more than 8,500 airstrikes, planes flying over Iran and dropping bombs, and more than 1,000 offensive strikes. 28 of those were targeted killings of top Iranian leaders like Khamenei himself. 30 leaders, like I said, more than that. Israel destroyed around 250 Iranian air defense systems. Those are the missiles and radars that were supposed to protect Iran from Israeli planes and American planes. 60% of Iran's missile launchers, the machines that shoot missiles at Israel, if you don't know what missile launchers are, were taken out of the fight. In total, Israel hit more than 6,700 Iranian military buildings and more than 4,000 specific targets, and that's just the national picture. In Tehran alone, Iran's capital city, Israel carried out more than 2,100 airstrikes and more than 4,600 total attacks. We can keep cheshbon. In Tehran, Israel hit more than 2,700 buildings and more than 670 specific targets. While Pezeshkian was seen biking in Isfahan today, because all their oil and gas is gone, maybe, I don't know, the Israeli military gave a briefing today. They are warning the government not to give in to Iran. They want every bit of Iran's nuclear material taken out, a permanent ban on making more, and Iran's frozen money kept frozen. If Iran says no, they say there is still plenty left to bomb. They admit bombing alone was never going to bring the regime down, but they say cracks are showing. During the war, Iran fired 1,400 missiles. Israel stopped 84%. Hezbollah from Lebanon fired 8,000 rockets. Only 75 actually hit. Now, total damage inside Iran, $100 billion. Israel's profit and loss statement, heavy on Iran's losses. Okay, today is Rosh Chodesh Iyar, my friends. The letters of the word ear spell out Ani Hashem Rofechu. I am Hashem, your healer. The entire month of Iyar is a month of healing, so we all have to look at ourselves and heal our minna in Hashem. And like I said yesterday, well, you hear the Shmiz Mitzvah with Chabad Shliach. He's such an amazing person, by the way. After a week like this, and after the Spiegel tragedy, and after the war, and after everything Klal Yisrael has been through, we go into the Shabbos Kodesh, also Rosh Chodesh, a Shabbos of healing, Tazriyah Mitzvah, you know, especially this week as well. Negat Sodas. Agit Shabbos, Agit Chodesh, Hashem should send the Refuah Shalayim to all of the Cholim of Klal Yisrael, and obviously bring Avram Yishai and Shoshana back home safely to his family. On Edge, we'll be back after Shabbos, and obviously with this new episode with Rabbi Gershy Schwarcz. The secret is out from Chabad Insider, my friends. I wish you all a lechtige Shabbos Kodesh.
Your daily report of the news of the last 24 hours, powered by Yiddish24, provided to you by The Click.